a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most shocking Times TV personalities threw their careers or reputations away live on air.
And for me, at 68 years of age, to have to turn around and say, I ain't racist. What's it got to do with me?
Number 30, Tex Antoine.
Hello, I'm Tex Antoine, and I'd like to talk to you about the best way to feed your dog.
Even without formal training in meteorology, Antoine became a fixture in local U.S. weather reporting for decades. He was known for meshing entertainment into his reports. However, in 1976, Antoine's storied career came crashing down. While working for WABC, he made a highly insensitive joke about assault right after a harrowing news story about a child being assaulted aired. Soon, the station was flooded with complaints from viewers, and WABC suspended Antoine. Although many people called for his firing, the network eventually brought him back in a non-TV role. However, when Antoine's contract expired in 1977, WABC chose not to renew it. He later found brief work at a different station before passing away in 1983. Number 29, Al Campanis.
Why do you think it is? Is there still that much prejudice in baseball today?
No, I don't believe it's prejudice.
After becoming the first Greek player in the MLB, Al Campanis went on to serve as the general manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers for nearly 2 decades. In 1987, he appeared on Nightline for an episode celebrating Jackie Robinson, a friend of his. However, instead of being a touching tribute, the segment became infamous for Campanis uttering various racist statements.
How many quarterbacks do you have? How many pitchers do you have that are black? It's same
yeah, but I mean,
applies.
I got to tell you, that sounds like the same kind of garbage we were hearing 40 years ago about players.
When asked by host Ted Koppel why there was a lack of black managers and general managers in baseball, Campanis stated that they didn't have the, quote, necessities for those roles. Yikes. He also claimed black people aren't good swimmers due to a lack of buoyancy. The outrage caused him to be fired as general manager 2 days later.
Why are black men or black people not good swimmers? Because they don't have the buoyancy.
Number 28, Ron Atkinson.
It was automatic. There was no choice. He was red carded. What he did was a red card offence.
With a long career as a footballer, and then as a manager for teams like Manchester United and West Brom, Ron Atkinson seemed like a good choice to be a pundit for the UK's ITV. But no. In 2004, while covering a Champions League match, Atkinson, believing his microphone was off, heavily criticized Chelsea player Marcel Desailly and used a racial slur.
And then they showed Desailly, who had also been critical of in the game, and that is when apparently I made the alleged remark.
Unfortunately for Big Ron, his words were broadcast in other countries in the Middle East. As a result, Atkinson was forced to resign from ITV and his newspaper column with The Guardian. Since then, he has barely worked in primetime punditry and now claims to be, quote, fed up with apologizing for the incident.
Now let me say something to you now. And the response I've had from the black people, I've got to tell you.
Number 27, Don Cherry.
You tell me that's fair? What the hell is going on with suspensions?
After decades as a professional ice hockey player and a head coach, Don Cherry transitioned into a broadcasting career. In 1982, he became the face of Coach's Corner, later creating an iconic partnership with Ron MacLean, and gaining fame for his outlandish suits. However, in 2019, he ruined his career and reputation. Cherry went off on a rant criticizing immigrants, accusing them of not supporting Canadian veterans because they don't buy and wear remembrance poppies.
You love our way of life, you love our milk and honey, at least you could pay a couple of bucks for poppies or something like that.
His comments were denounced by the Royal Canadian Legion, the NHL, and even his co-anchor MacLean, but Cherry refused to apologize. 2 days later, he was fired by the broadcaster. As a result, Coach's Corner was cancelled.
Yes, I wish I had said everybody. but it's nothing you can do about it. I did.
Number 26, Jim Cornette.
This is Jim Cornette, and the views that I'm about to express are not necessarily those of anybody else but me, but they ought to be, and as a matter of fact, they probably are.
Since 1976, Cornette has been in various roles within the wrestling industry, working for companies such as WWE, Ring of Honor, WCW, and many more. There aren't many big organizations he hasn't worked for. Yet, while the sport evolved, Cornette seemingly didn't. In 2019, while commentating for NWA Power on YouTube, he mentioned Trevor Murdoch was the only guy he knew who, quote, can strap a bucket of fried chicken on his back and ride a motor scooter across Ethiopia.
No, he's the only man I've ever known that could strap a bucket of fried chicken on his back and ride a motor scooter across Ethiopia.
Cornette had rehashed a similar phrase he'd used in 1995. Due to the backlash, the NWA apologized and removed the episode online. The next day, Cornette was forced to leave the company, and 1 month later, he announced his retirement from commentary.
Wrestling is the roughest, most dramatic, and oftentimes the most hilarious sport before the American public today.
Number 25, Piers Morgan.
I did not know her that well. All it did was inform me that she has a bit of a streak in her where she cuts people out of her life when she moves on.
At one point, Morgan was one of the UK's most famous TV hosts, with projects such as Britain's Got Talent and Piers Morgan's Life Stories under his belt. In 2015, he joined the Good Morning Britain team. However, over time, Morgan's relentless criticism of Meghan Markle began to overshadow his work.
Because of your previous relationship with Meghan Markle, you've sometimes...
I didn't have a relationship with Meghan Markle.
But you met up with her, you knew her...
I knew her briefly.
Right, so
it got so bad that in 2021, after the airing of Oprah with Meghan and Harry, Morgan expressed his doubts about Markle's account of her mental health struggles. This sparked co-host Alex Beresford to verbally lay into him, resulting in a heated argument. Morgan stormed off the set in response.
Sorry, can't do
this
this.
is absolutely diabolical behaviour.
Later that day, he quit the show and has struggled to be taken seriously since. Number 24, Bill Grundy.
You see, they're as drunk as I am. They're clean by comparison. They're a group called the Sex Pistols.
Throughout his long broadcasting career, Bill Grundy was best remembered for one terrible interview. In 1976, he hosted the UK regional magazine show Today. With Queen unavailable due to a medical emergency, the Sex Pistols were brought in for a live interview instead. And it was a mess. Grundy was immediately hostile to the band and their entourage. He showed them no respect and even suggested that he was intoxicated. In return, the Pistols mocked him and swore repeatedly, despite such language being forbidden at the time.
You dirty sod. You dirty old man.
Well, keep going, Chick, keep going. Go on, you've got another 5 seconds. Say something outrageous.
This incident turned the small show into a national discussion. Grundy was initially suspended, but 2 months later, Today was cancelled, leaving him without a job. He fell into obscurity before his passing in 1993.
But if I let it go too far, it was to show that lot up for what they are, the foul and horrible future.
Do you know what this meant to you?
Oh, do tell.
The past.
Number 23, Chris Cuomo.
What I'm saying is, you have these employers, the agro companies, the other big manufacturers, they take them in because it's cheap labor. And they get away with it all the time.
After moving to CNN and getting his own show in 2018, everything seemed to be going well for Chris Cuomo. When his brother Andrew, the governor of New York, was accused of harassment, Cuomo seemingly did the right thing by publicly stating he wouldn't discuss the story due to a conflict of interest.
I said point blank, I can't be objective when it comes to my family. So I never reported on the scandal. And when it happened, I tried to be there for my brother.
Yet behind the scenes, it was apparently another matter. In 2021, it was discovered that Cuomo had used his connections and experience to advise Andrew on his response, and he'd collected information on the accusers. This horrific breach of journalistic ethics caused CNN to suspend Cuomo. This, on top of assault allegations against Cuomo himself, caused the network to ultimately fire its former prized host.
Now having to deal with something I haven't had to deal with in so many years, which is, now what?
Number 22, Howard Cosell.
He was unbelievably sensitive to the most ridiculous criticism imaginable.
Howard Cosell was a titan in the world of sports broadcasting, but he left a permanent black mark on his record during a 1983 football game. While responding to an impressive move by wide receiver Alvin Garrett, Cosell used some unfortunate wording while referring to the player's speed.
Jake Gibbs wanted to get this, kid, and that little monkey gets loose, doesn't he?
Cosell insisted that the statement wasn't intended to be cruel, and he was even backed up by prominent African-American athletes whom he'd previously supported. Nonetheless, the highly publicized incident was instrumental in Cosell's eventual departure from Monday Night Football. While he still continued work afterwards, the story surrounding his comments diminished his popularity and contributed to a noticeable downturn in his media career.
Sports writers took care of that, boy. They're right there. They're always on the wrong side of the fence.
Number 21, Don Imus.
I didn't think it was necessary to offer any excuse. No, I don't think there is now.
With a storied career in radio and a shock jock reputation, controversy has often surrounded Don Imus. But the biggest one happened in 2007 on his Imus in the Morning show. While discussing an NCAA women's basketball championship game between Rutgers University and the University of Tennessee, Imus and executive producer Bernard McGuirk made several offensive remarks.
That I'm here to represent myself. I do not in any way speak for Mr. Imus, who, by the way, conducted himself with dignity and class.
Imus called the Rutgers team, quote, rough due to having tattoos, then threw in racial slurs and misogynistic language with McGuirk. The incident sparked protests, and many activists and politicians called for Imus to be fired. After being briefly suspended, MSNBC fired Imus from their platform, a position he had held for 36 years. Imus continued his show elsewhere, albeit with a broken reputation.
And at this point, as we sit here today, is there anything he can do?
Yeah, he could resign.
Number 20, Jimmy the Greek. The stage name for Jimmy Snyder, Jimmy the Greek, was a television personality who kinda, sorta, maybe supported illegal gambling. A Las Vegas bookmaker, Snyder would appear on CBS's The NFL Today and predict the scores. This would thereby help the bookies in Vegas set the odds for particular games. He served with CBS for 12 years before getting fired in 1988. In January of that year, he was giving an interview with Washington's WRC-TV when he made highly offensive remarks about African-American athletes.
Now, I'm not being derogatory about it, but that's all that's left for him.
After his opinions drew immediate condemnation, even Snyder himself seemed remorseful. In the end, he was fired by CBS and later tried suing them for breach of contract. He didn't win.
It goes without saying that his comments do not reflect in any way the thinking or attitudes of the rest of us here at CBS Sports. While we deplore the incident this weekend, we are saddened that our 12-year association with Jimmy had to end this way.
Number 19, Lara Logan. For a while, South African journalist Lara Logan had a good career and even served as chief foreign affairs correspondent for CBS. But everything collapsed on October 27, 2013, when she appeared on 60 Minutes to report on the 2012 Benghazi attack. Logan's report was riddled with factual errors. After the incident, she apologized on CBS This Morning for her shoddy journalism and blamed an inaccurate source in the U.S. Embassy in Benghazi.
The most important thing to every person at 60 Minutes is the truth. And today the truth is that we made a mistake. And that's very disappointing for any journalist. It's very disappointing for me.
She was forced to take a leave of absence and later left CBS entirely. Logan then fell into far-right beliefs and started speaking publicly about various conspiracy theories. She also landed a job at Fox News, but she was fired by them as well in 2022. Number 18, Dan Rather. When it comes to iconic names in news, it doesn't get much bigger than Dan Rather. He anchored CBS Evening News for over 2 decades and won 8 Peabodys. Unfortunately, his legendary career was overshadowed by an incident in the mid-2000s. In 2004, Rather reported on the Killian documents. These memos were supposed to be official proof that George W. Bush had a rocky stint as a member of the Texas Air National Guard.
We also presented documents for the first time which indicated that once Mr. Bush was accepted into the Guard, he failed to live up to the requirements of his service, including following an order.
However, it was quickly revealed that these memos were a modern forgery. The affair severely tarnished Rather's reputation with the network.
Those were facts, and that was true. Because it was true, those who wanted to discredit the story had to attack the process by which we got to the truth. And they successfully attacked us on that.
After retiring as an anchorman, he was fired from CBS entirely. While he went on to other ventures, his career with the big network was seemingly damaged beyond repair. Number 17, Rick Sanchez. After much local work, Rick Sanchez earned national attention when he was hired to work for CNN. He eventually became the station's anchor and hosted his own show called Rick's List, which drew acclaim for its unique integration of social media. But his steady rise came to a screeching halt due to a radio appearance. While Sanchez was on Sirius XM's Stand Up with Pete Dominic, he made negative remarks about both Jon Stewart and Jewish people. He called Stewart a bigot, a term he later retracted, and claimed Jews were not an oppressed minority.
You're telling me that... I'm telling you that everybody who runs CNN is a lot like Stewart, and a lot of people who run all the other networks are a lot like Stewart.
Sanchez was fired from CNN a day after the comments went public. After losing his job, he made a number of public apologies.
If you Googled Rick Sanchez at the time, you didn't get me. You didn't get the guy who had the highest rated show on CNN. I disappeared. My brand was gone. What you got was a cartoon character named Rick Sanchez. And when I would tell people to look for me, they couldn't even find me.
Number 16, Glen Kuiper. For nearly 20 years, Kuiper was virtually seen as the play-by-play voice of the Oakland Athletics, but his career trajectory changed on May 5th, 2023. Kuiper was in Kansas City for a game and mentioned on air that he had visited the city's Negro Leagues baseball museum, but when speaking about the location, he said a racial slur as the first word of the title. Kuiper was quick to apologize and claimed that he misspoke.
Not being disappointed, you're going to meet some of the greatest athletes to ever play this game. You walk away with an even greater appreciation for just...
At the same time, the team's official social media accounts condemned his use of the slur. Following an internal investigation, the longtime announcer was fired from the network.
It's a painful lesson for all of us. It also lets us know, again, in this crazy world, particularly this crazy world of social media that we live in now, a simple mistake can be compounded in such a way.
Number 15, Natasha Exelby. While you might not know her name, you may have seen her viral clip. Natasha Exelby is a journalist who once worked for ABC Australia News. During one live show, the camera cut back to her while she was mindlessly playing with her pen.
Now to sport with Meredith Sheehan.
Exelby quickly realized her error with a big reaction and immediately went to segue into the next segment. While the clip was widely shared on social media as a funny clip, it was no laughing matter for Exelby. Since she was freelancing at the time, ABC Australia chose not to offer additional on-air shifts. Exelby's treatment after the pen incident earned her more support than jeers from her industry peers. Number 14, Danielle Sargent. If there's one cardinal rule in broadcasting, it's that you should not swear. Danielle Sargent was reminded of this rule when she worked for ESPN. She was doing a live broadcast on March 9th, 2006, when the camera cut to pre-taped footage of a basketball game. Unbeknownst to her, Sargent's microphone remained hot during the broadcast. This paved the way for everyone to hear her drop a massive F-bomb.
First lead of the game. It's 74-71 until Jerry McNamara for the tie.
And this wasn't a, maybe the viewers missed it kind of thing. No, this was loud, very clear, and unmistakable. When it came time to renew her contract, ESPN declined. Number 13, Don Lemon. Journalist Don Lemon had been steadily working in news since 2006 when he joined CNN as a correspondent. But at certain points in his career, he drew criticism for his negative opinions about women. Everything came to a head on February 19, 2023. On that day, Lemon criticized politician Nikki Haley by saying, quote, "A woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait. That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s.
This comment earned Lemon widespread condemnation.
He apologized, but the damage was done.
It also sparked a report from Variety, which showcased his history of misogynistic behavior. He was subsequently fired on April 24th, 2023. Number 12, Rush Limbaugh. Most people know the name Rush Limbaugh for his popular talk radio show. But did you know that he also worked for ESPN as a football commentator? We wouldn't blame you if you didn't, because the stint certainly didn't last long. During one on-air segment, Limbaugh criticized Eagles quarterback Donovan McNabb. He called the athlete overrated and stated that the player received additional praise for being black.
I think there was a little hope invested in McNabb, and he got a lot of credit for the performance of this team that he really didn't deserve.
The comments earned much criticism, and some called Limbaugh racist. The on-air personality later claimed that he was trying to take shots at the media coverage. At the same time, Limbaugh also announced his resignation from ESPN just a few weeks into his tenure. Number 11, Sharon Osborne. This television personality's gift for gab landed her a job on, well, The Talk. The CBS daytime features a number of individuals discussing recent news and human interest stories. In 2021, the hosts discussed Meghan Markle and the harsh comments made against her by Piers Morgan. Osborne defended aspects of Morgan's behavior and got into a vicious fight with her co-host Cheryl Underwood.
Can I be racist about anybody or anything in my life? How can I?
Well, I tell you,
what?
We'll be right back.
What?
We have more topics, so don't go away.
And I think we should stop this.
To make matters worse, negative comments that Osborne had previously made about Markle resurfaced. The argument and older sound bites convinced CBS to put the show on hiatus. They later announced that Osborne's conduct did not represent a respectful workplace. Not long after the incident, the host resigned from the show.
I never thought in my wildest dreams that my career after 50 years would have ended that way.
Number 10, Chris Matthews.
The man in the White House is behaving now like a character on that old detective show, Columbo. He's acting like one of the bad guys.
Best known for his political roundtable show Hardball with Chris Matthews that launched in 1997, this host's involvement in politics and journalism actually goes back decades. So after a long career in the public eye, Matthews was already at the point of contemplating retirement. But a bizarre rant likening Bernie Sanders' Nevada caucus win to the Nazi invasion of France brought on his retirement much sooner than planned.
I'm reading last night about the fall of France in the summer of 1940, and the general, Renault, calls up Churchill and says, "It's over." And Churchill said, "How can it be? You got the greatest army in Europe. How can it be over?" He said, "It's over."
His comments sparked calls for resignation and coincided with a new column published about inappropriate comments he'd allegedly made towards journalist Laura Bassett. Facing the fire from two fronts, Matthews met with his bosses at MSNBC and later resigned on air after offering apologies for his behavior.
Compliments on a woman's appearance that some men, including me, might have once incorrectly thought were okay. We're never okay. Not then and certainly not today. And for making such comments in the past, I'm sorry.
Number 9, Paula Abdul. Abdul's career soared as one of the original judges on American Idol, but there were reports in the mid-2000s that behind the scenes she was struggling with substance use. A now infamous Fox News interview in 2007 only encouraged these rumors.
What do Idol fans have to look forward to this season, and what are you looking forward to seeing?
Well, is that what it is? I was wondering, what is that?
Paula slurred her words and struggled with her balance to the point where Fox News had to address her behavior on air.
They acknowledged that during the very beginning of that interview, there was an audio problem. Paula was actually hearing a Fox TV station in Memphis and didn't hear our questions from Seattle. But after that, the audio was fixed and you saw how the rest of that interview went.
2 years later, Ladies' Home Journal would publish an interview in which Abdul said she was overusing pain medication. Abdul claimed they'd fabricated quotes. Rumors also emerged that she'd clashed with Idol management, and Abdul and the show parted ways that same year.
Simon, I understand what you're saying, but I disagree with what
No,
you're
I think you're patronizing him.
I'm not patronizing him at all.
I do.
She's been jumping from short-lived hosting gigs, reality TV, and TV movies ever since. Number 8. Angel Cardinas. We've mentioned foot and mouth disease and how dangerous it can be on live TV, but this next entry can only be described as a case of whole body and mouth disease.
So no one is out here to tell me which car I can't go in, because some of these are off limits. So I'm gonna live on the wild side. Tell me what you think about this pose right here, Tina.
Sacramento reporter Angel Cardinas was getting the lowdown on an upcoming classic car show when, after noticing that he was alone in a room full of beautiful cars, he decided to make himself right at home, climbing on one car and possibly denting another.
What year is this thing? I think it's a 1950, 99, yeah, right. And
Oh, no!
I hit that other car.
Oh, no. Angel!
Cardinas was fired, obviously, but we can't help but wonder if he wanted to be fired the whole time acting like this. Like, the dude didn't even tuck his shirt in before going live on TV. He was either trying too hard or not trying enough.
I would get off that now.
Oh no, he told me to get off. Okay, I'm gonna get in trouble. Back to you guys.
Bye.
Number 7. Paula Deen. After Paula Deen admitted to using racial slurs, her emergency PR strategy was baffling. Essentially, it consisted of showing up on national TV, crying and apologizing profusely, and making biblical references about no one being without sin.
If you're out there, please pick up that stone and throw it so hard in my head that it kills me. Please, I want to meet you.
This apology interview did not sit well with her critics, and nor did it win back any of her fleeing business partners. In fact, more businesses fled from Deen Island after this weak attempt at an apology, with both Caesars Entertainment and Walmart dropping her shortly after.
While we appreciate Paula's sincere apologies, the company wrote, it's in the best interest of both parties to part ways.
In a short time span, one of the most popular celebrity chefs on the planet went from being on national TV with the Food Network to appearing on smaller local cable channels and now self-publishing on YouTube.
On lots of days, it's just go, go, go. And for those days, we need quick meals.
Number 6. Chris Harrison. For nearly 20 years, Chris Harrison served as host of The Bachelor and its many spin-offs. Between 2002 and 2021, Harrison guided us through the joys of love and the pains of loss. But speaking of loss, Harrison lost his job following an extra interview with Rachel Lindsay. A former contestant named Rachel Kirkconnell had ignited controversy for liking photos of the Confederate flag and attending an antebellum South plantation-themed party.
It's not a good look. It's not a good look.
No, it's not a good. Well, Rachel, is it a good look in 2018 or is it not a good look in 2021?
Harrison defended Kirkconnell during the extra interview, prompting widespread criticism and forcing him to take a leave of absence from The Bachelor. After a few months of silence, it was announced that Harrison was permanently stepping down as host.
I am an imperfect man. I made a mistake, and I own that. I believe that mistake doesn't reflect who I am or what I stand for.
Number 5. Kelly Osborne. If you never wanted to be invited back to co-host a show again, we couldn't think of a better strategy than Kelly Osborne's when she appeared on The View in 2015. Responding to Donald Trump's description of Mexican immigrants, Osborne wondered who would clean Trump's toilet.
If you kick every Latino out of this country, then who is going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?
Now, we know she was trying to make a point about Trump's attitude towards America's Mexican community, and that her message got hella twisted from her brain to her mouth.
I'm okay with people calling me whatever they want to call me. However, I'm not okay that I hurt people's feelings.
But we don't foresee her being invited back to host The View anytime soon. Her career hasn't exactly been stellar since, as she left Fashion Police that same year and has been hopping between competition shows and family endeavors since.
I have to tread lightly on this one because people know that I have a history with her, but she just looks terrible.
Terrible. Oh, God.
Number 4. Megyn Kelly.
And I want to begin with 2 words. I'm sorry.
Not even a 15-year run as a news reporter and TV host could save the high-profile Kelly when she defended blackface on her show Megyn Kelly Today in 2018. In a discussion about why donning blackface is inappropriate on Halloween, Megyn failed to see the seriousness of it, saying it was routine when she was a kid and questioned whether it was racist.
Okay, back when I was a kid, that was okay as long as you were dressing up as like a character.
She received slight pushback from her co-hosts at the time, but the worst of the backlash came via Twitter, and Kelly was forced to apologize on air the very next day.
You may have heard that yesterday we had a discussion here about political correctness and Halloween costumes. And that conversation turned to whether it is ever okay for a person of one race to dress up as another.
The apology was for naught, as only 3 days after making the remarks, Megyn's show was canceled and she was fired a few months later. Number 3. AJ Clemente. File this one under so funny he should have kept his job. Rookie newscaster Clemente was on his first day at the anchor desk and super stressed when he dropped an F-bomb just as the show was going live. And the rest is viral video infamy. It was so popular that AJ even did a media tour talking about the epic gaffe.
Because you're man enough to face the music, you've been on this show, you've been on a lot of shows, you've been on the Twitter and the face feed and all of that stuff. If you want to, you should be offered that job back.
And while we understand why AJ couldn't have kept his job in live TV after such a careless mistake, we're still laughing at this video all these years later. And seeing as this single video has brought us so much joy, we really hope AJ landed on his feet after being canned and is enjoying a happy, healthy life.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Yeah, we're live. We're live.
FYI. I know that's your favorite form of TV.
Number 2, Brian Williams.
I did not set out to in any way change the chronicle of what happened to us.
With the news industry in such a precarious place in the era of social media over the past decade, finding out that respected newsman Brian Williams lied in order to make his reporting sound more heroic came as an epic letdown in 2015.
On the ground, we learned the Chinook ahead of us was almost blown out of the sky. That hole was made by a rocket-propelled grenade, or RPG, fired from the ground.
Williams made up a story about him being on a helicopter that came under fire in Iraq in 2003, and the public and professional outburst when it was revealed this wasn't true forced NBC to suspend him for 6 months without pay.
I made a mistake in recalling the events of 12 years ago. It did not take long to hear from some brave men and women in the air crews who were also in that desert. I want to apologize.
After so many years at the helm of NBC's flagship news show and NBC Nightly News, Williams' fabrications led to his demotion to MSNBC, where he remained until his retirement in 2021. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Billy Bush. Bush was made co-host on NBC's Today after many years of co-hosting Access Hollywood Live. But his tenure at Today was short-lived after a previously unreleased tape of himself and soon-to-be President Donald Trump was uncovered that contained some pretty heinous remarks about women.
I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss.
Now, as we all know, Trump was definitely the most offensive in this recording, what with his now infamous line. But Bush was also widely criticized for encouraging Trump's misogynistic behavior, and he was later suspended from Today and eventually fired from NBC entirely.
My now 16-year-old daughter called me, and she was in tears, and she was really upset, and she said, "Why were you laughing at the things that he was saying?"
Bush wasn't heard from for almost 3 whole years after the incident either, until it was announced that he'd be taking over as host of Extra from Mario Lopez in 2019.
It's good to know what it feels like to be down.
Yeah.
And I had never really in my life felt what it's like to be down. And when you know that, you approach people a lot differently.
Which TV host who destroyed their career off-air shocked you the most? Matt Lauer, Phillip Schofield, Amy Robach and T.J. Holmes, or someone else? Let us know in the comments. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.